What is going on, everyone? It's Sean, Denver real estate agent with Co-Listings, and it's been a hot minute since the last time I did a market update for the Denver area. Yes, it's been busy. Yes, there's a lot going on in real estate, and I want to update you all on all of these things here coming up in just a moment. Let's do a quick summary of the things that I will cover in this video. I'm going to touch first on median days on market, single-family homes, months of housing inventory for single-family homes, number of new listings, median sale price, mortgage rates, the Denver area unemployment rate, and I'm going to take your questions from online. So let's get started. We're looking at September 2020 data here. Number of days on market is sitting at 6 days, which is astonishingly low, especially as we move into the fall. You can see here over on the right, we had a little bit of a lumpy start to the springtime, but we have not seen that uptick in days on market at all this year. It is quite impressive and phenomenal to see this. I think that this may continue over the next couple of months. Days on market is going to continue to be low, at least for October and maybe for November. This pandemic has really switched things up with what we typically see in the real estate market. Months of housing inventory for single-family homes is sitting at 1 month. This is nothing new, as I've talked about in previous videos. Over and over and over, we tend to go from 1 month to 2 months of inventory. The moment that we start to see an uptick to 3 months or more, I'm going to sound the alarm bells a little bit more, but as far as available homes for buyers to pick from, it's very limited, which is creating this fast and furious seller's market. Number of new listings, we are sitting at 4,531. Again, over here on the right, you see a little bit of a lumpiness to the year. We saw a significant drop in new listings on the market when the state shut things down and disallowed showings. Virtual showings have taken place all year round, but in terms of in-person showings, we did see that drop around the April timeframe, and then it ticked back up in May, and we've been fast and furious. However, number of listings is coming down for the winter time. And this will likely continue to fall as we move into colder months because people don't want to put their house on the market in the winter time. They don't want to have to deal with snow and colder weather. And most people just aren't moving when the weather is colder. You do still have properties go on the market, and you do still have people buying houses, just not as common as what we see in the spring and the summertime. Median sale price is $504,000. For this particular geographical area that I take a look at, this is the first time that it crossed over $500,000. And for the average sale price, it is hovering just below $600,000. And we are in just such an interesting market. There's never been a better time to buy than today because as we look at the historical average and median sale price, even in a down economy, the numbers are still going up and to the right. Mortgage rates are phenomenally low for 30-year, 15-year, and 5/1 adjustable. Here we're taking a look at Freddie Mac numbers. Here's a 12-month look back at where things stand. They are exceptionally low. When we take a look at the 10-year look back, it looks even more appealing. Unemployment rate, this is one that shot way up during the pandemic. There were a lot of businesses that laid off their lower wage workers because they just couldn't operate. Everyone was in a stay-at-home order. Now that things have started to open back up again and we're able to move about relatively freely, albeit with some caveats, businesses are opening back up again, which means that people are shopping in person, and this is good because it's putting people back to work. Now we're sitting at 7%. The national average is 8.4, and this is for August numbers. Still, this is significantly higher than what we've ever seen in the last 10 years. I would expect for this unemployment rate to continue to fall and cities and states find a way to operate their businesses during a pandemic. Now, let's take some of your questions from online, and thank you so much for sending these in. I haven't done one of these market updates in quite a while, and so I was quite overtaken by the number of questions from you all that came in. So the first one is, are you seeing this as well? Referring to the graph here on the slide. Below is Utah, number still similar for September. Looking forward to the update. When I take a look at this, I do see that for the current year, which is the numbers on the right, you're looking at about 6,000 homes in inventory. We've got about 3,000. So we're about half, which means 50% less inventory for buyers to pick from. We're extremely inventory constrained, and it continues to be a hyper-competitive market even during a pandemic. Next question, what are the best suburbs of Denver for kids aged 25 to 30, first time moving to Colorado? Ease of access to city and mountains. What I would recommend, Freddie, is trying to be as central as possible, because that's going to give you the most social life, the most activities, and the best forms of public transportation. You do have a light rail that runs up and down I-25 from the south end of Denver Metro all the way to downtown. You do have some trains that run northwest and north. So if you can find something that's along public transportation, like the light rail or train, it's going to give you far more flexibility for how you get around. Now, the more central you are, the more you pay, because that's where most people want to live. So do keep that in mind, understand what your budget is, and work with someone who understands the area when it comes time for you to move to Colorado and find a place to rent. And my recommendation for apps to use when looking at rentals is Zillow. They've got a really phenomenal app for the end user. It's easy to use, it's easy to move around geographically and to target the size of the rental that you're looking for. So good luck with that, and let me know when you get into town, and I'd love to meet up for coffee. Next question is, I am wondering how population growth and climate change will affect the livability of the area. For example, less snowpack equals less water. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. This is something that I think a lot of environmental agencies are taking a look at, not only with the state, but also nonprofits here in the Colorado area. There are many people who are very aware of the changing climate and how that will impact things like water. This is going to be a serious issue, not only for the Denver area, but also for across the globe. The temperature and the weather is changing, and hopefully we can find some ways to address this sooner rather than later. Hi, Sean. I'd like to know about long-term rental purchases in the Denver market. As a side note, can you DM me looking to buy? Hey, this is great news, Will. Thanks so much for your message. We've been corresponding here, so I appreciate you reaching out. There are several things that I think are important to understand. Number one, and probably most importantly, is what is your budget? How much money do you want to spend? Because that will dictate where in the Denver metro area that you can buy. The more popular areas, of course, will be more expensive. And the other thing that also is impacted by purchase price is the size of the place that you get for that money. The further away from downtown you get, generally speaking, your money goes a little bit further. If you want to be central in downtown, just be prepared to pay a little bit more of a premium for that. And as I mentioned before with Freddie, do keep in mind that if you're going to purchase a place, central is probably ideal, and along some of the major arteries for public transportation like light rail and train are good factors to be mindful of. What is the best place to move for a person going to medical school in Denver? This really depends on what your budget is and how close you want to be to your medical facility. My guess is you probably want to try and be as close as possible. You probably don't want to drive an hour into town as you're heading to your shift, or an hour back home after you finish your shift. So something that's affordable. Also, do you want to be close to social life? If so, that probably means that you want to be somewhere central. There are some good places closer to 225. There is quite a large medical facility on the Colfax 225 intersection, and there's some good things going on there. In terms of investment and rejuvenation of those areas, there's a lot of commercial investment. There's also a lot of real estate investment going on into those areas. But east of 225, your money might go a little bit further than west of 225, but there are still some pockets west of 225 that I think could put you in a nice proximity to medical facilities. Well, depending on where you're going to be working at, just keep that in mind that as you get further away from central Denver, usually the more affordable it gets. And there are some pockets along that Colfax 225 intersection that should be relatively affordable, plus give you some options for public transportation if you choose to leverage that. How many homes have EV-ready chargers, and how many per capita have solar? Well, the short answer is not very many, but I think that this is in direct correlation to the interest level and the prevalence of electric vehicles and solar. So when I take a look at available inventory right now that is on the market, for solar, I only see 24 of those 3,000 houses that have solar of any size. This is all throughout the Colorado area, but mostly in the Denver area. As far as electric vehicle charging, it does increase a little bit. There are 57 of those 3,000 homes on the market that do have electric vehicle charging of some sort. I expect this to change pretty significantly as more people start to drive electric. They'll start to take a look at how they can reduce their electric energy usage in their home. And for those that are environmentally friendly, they're going to be looking at how to power their electric vehicle from renewables instead of from the grid and fossil fuels. How much would a 1,200 square foot lot with a 2,200 square foot 2-floor, 6-bedroom home and a 700 square foot garage cost over there? Again, it really depends on what part of Denver. You could easily be north of $1 million, but you could probably find something like this in an area that might be Castle Rock, for example, on the south end of the Denver metro area, or maybe Erie or Longmont or Loveland on the north end of the Denver metro area, that would be somewhere around the $400,000 to $500,000 price point for these specs that you're talking about. How has COVID impacted the tech workers and them moving out to Denver? This is not something that I really follow that closely, John. I appreciate the question, but I'm not getting as deep into the weeds in terms of employment. What types of sectors are still employing versus ones that are laying off? My guess is that we're probably seeing a relatively healthy tech sector in the Denver metro area as more companies and more businesses look to leverage technology and software as a service to help them do business more efficiently. What areas around Denver have the most secure and highest purity water supplies? This is one that I don't follow closely either. I might refer you to a government website that would track this. In fact, I did do a quick look to see if I could find some easily identifiable data, and I was not successful at it, but the state of Colorado does have a water quality systems from the Department of Public Health and Environment. You can search through some of their data. You can search through grading and violations, but it wasn't easily identifiable in terms of county or cities that have the best quality water. What percent have you noticed the Colorado housing market increase from the date marijuana became legalized? How does that number compare to the rest of America? You know, occasionally I do get this question. People are really curious about how it's impacted the real estate market. I'd say anecdotally, it hasn't really impacted it one way or the other. The real estate market as a whole has continued to improve in terms of average and median sale price. We continue to see very tight inventory, but is this in direct correlation to the marijuana industry? I really don't see any indication that it is. I don't follow the industry close enough, so I can't speak to the data, but when I look historically back at the real estate market, I don't really see any significant jumps one way or the other. I did hear secondhand that some of these businesses that were operating in the industry needed to put their cash places because banks could not take them and operate if they were going to be federally backed. So I did hear secondhand that some of these businesses were putting their cash into real estate versus into a bank. I don't know how many did that, and I don't know how often or prevalent it was. How many homes on average come with pre-installed solar systems? This is a metric that I don't know is tracked at all. Some new home builders are doing it, but most are so cost conscious that they're not spending the time to do this. This would probably need to be more of a state or federal law that would require solar to be installed. And then again, you need to have some way to measure and track this. So at the moment, there's not really any effective way to give you numbers on this. And last question, best options for waterfront. It depends on your budget, of course. It always comes back to budget, it seems like. But if you're west of the north and south interstate highway, I-25, your chances of finding a waterfront property are going to increase significantly as the snow melts. That's going to come down off of the mountains and create these reservoirs and small bodies of water. I tend to see this mostly on the northwest part of the Denver metro area. So north of Boulder, you're going to see those small bodies of water and small reservoirs where that water does collect. So think about North Boulder, think about Longmont, think about Loveland and Fort Collins. Those are probably going to be your best options geographically to take a look at. And of course, depending on your price point, it is slightly more desirable to be on a waterfront than it is not, so be prepared to pay for it. Okay, that wraps up this October 2020 Denver real estate market update. My name is Sean Mitchell with Co-Listings. Thank you so much for your questions and attention. If you've got some questions, put them in the comments. And if you're considering buying or selling real estate in the Denver metro area, I'd love to apply for the job. My contact information will be at the end of this video. Sean Mitchell, signing off. I'll see everyone on the next real estate market update, hopefully next month.